I'm Sasha.
I'm Curtis.
And we are Two Angry Men from Asolo Rep's upcoming production of 12 Angry Men, a new musical.
We're taking you inside the jury room to witness the process of creating this exciting new adaptation of an American classic.
This is Two Angry Men.
In this episode, we sit down with Peter Rothstein, producing artistic director of Asolo Rep and director of 12 Angry Men.
Why do you think 12 Angry Men is a show that has stood the test of time, that it was a success in Minneapolis, hopefully it's a success in Sarasota? What do you think about the show that makes people drawn to it?
I mean, when I mention that title to any lawyers, they still say, oh, we still study that film in law school, or I teach that film in my ethics course. I think it's such an iconic look at the American judicial system and the psychology of both criminality and justice in this country. But I think at the heart of it is also this dream of a judicial system that we are tried by a jury of our peers.
Can we expect some people from Sarasota that come to see it to have the hope of seeing it in a future iteration, or is that still TBD because we don't know yet?
Yeah, we really don't know. I mean, our focus has been on bringing it here and continuing to mold and shape the show. David and Michael will be with us in residence here in Sarasota, continuing to look at the show for rewrites or adjustments.
I love that.
I think all of us are really hopeful that it will have a life beyond here. I think this musical is incredibly relevant. And because we were developing it over a period pre the murder of George Floyd and post the murder of George Floyd, when the conversation around race and justice in this country became much more volatile, much more palpable, but I think also much more with a conviction to change that my generation certainly I had not witnessed before. I think this work is of the moment, and while it's 70 years old, it could have been written yesterday.
Musical of the moment.
A lot of people ask, why men? You know, if this is a musical of the moment, and we're finding new ways and looking at shows and casting it differently than before, why is 12 Angry Men still with men?
Yeah, I think one thing we looked at right from the very beginning was, would it be a cast of men and women or any gender? And does it want to stay in 1954? Reginald Rose had left it very clear that those who control his estate, that it needs to be 12 men, that it should not be a mixed gendered jury, that these ills of our society have been constructed and perpetuated by men. While some people may say it feels exclusionary to women, I actually would argue that he was actually not trying to blame women for something they shouldn't take responsibility for.
Mm-hmm. When people think of a musical, a lot of times they can think of rah-rah Broadway, sterling 1950s, 60s, 70s, like feel-good musical. How is it possible from a directorial standpoint to have a musical that has that dramatic tension while also still keeping it exciting and alive?
We decided to bring a choreographer onto the piece, Kelly Foster Warder, because I wanted there to be heightened movement as part of the vocabulary. How do you stage those musical moments where time is suspended or time is elongated? I think the mere fact that there is music, that there is this heightened movement, brings an entertainment quality to it. But I also think music helps you empathize with the character, because for the most part, people sing their heart. So rather than decide who's the good guys and who are the bad guys, I think music helps one empathize with all or most of the characters. And so the audience then is kind of forced to wrestle with the issues in a much more complicated way, in a much more realistic way than an easy drama where we know instantly good guy, bad guy. I also think in terms of it being a musical, this is very much an American story. And the musical is very much an American art form. It's the only dramatic art form we can claim as our own.
What do you hope that audiences take away when they come see the show, because it sounds like they're going to be surprised. They might see a show they don't expect. They're probably coming in with questions as to how this is ever going to work. And what do you hope they take away?
I guess in some ways what I've said about it, that I think while the piece looks at the ills of our society, the flaws of our society, ultimately it does it through a lens of hope. My job as a director is primarily to listen, and I'm first listening to you all as intently as possible in the room, and then listening to the community. And I've been here for 8 months trying to listen, trying to understand who's here, what do they think, what do they feel, what's important to them. Sure, I'm watching what's happening on stage and trying to nuance that, but those previews are much more about listening to what's happening in the audience, and how do we shape this theatrical event to be poignant for those people in the room right here, right now.
So going back to the point, the audience is just as important. So you gotta come.
I agree.
Yeah.